What's up, Magical Misfits? Drew here, and I had a whole other video idea, something that I've been wanting to talk about, and I've kind of finally formulated my thoughts and thought I would share them, but that's gone out the window, and I'm still going to talk about it at some point, but I'm going to do some magic, and I haven't really been uber witchy on my channel, so I thought I would take you through the preparatory stage of the whole thing, and we could do it together and talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So at least I'd have some witchy content since the whole year has been none thus far. I apologize, I have a summer cold. I am not looking or feeling my best right now, but I will edit out any sneezing or nose blowing that happens while I'm filming. I'm fighting off a sneeze as we speak. I don't really want to fight it off, but it's just not ready to come out. At any rate, I hope that all of you are well and that you've enjoyed your summer thus far. A little backstory to bring us to where we are and what we're doing. So it's time to redo the wards around the property. And I'm sure many of you will understand exactly what I'm talking about without me even elaborating. But when my husband and I bought this home and moved our family onto this property in 2012, we made a grid of protection around the property. And at that time, it was just something very simple and basic. We just drew some crystals and herbs out to the four corners of the property and then created an energetic grid of protection around the property. And we did things in the home and whatnot. And every year, we sort of redo that. We actually have two grids at this point. It was probably a couple years after we moved in. I have always worked with angels. I don't think it matters what you call them. I personally don't believe they belong to Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. I believe that they are spiritual beings that exist. The reason I refer to them as angels, what it is that I work with, is because they are very similar to what those three religions I named describe them to be in my own personal experience of them. So at any rate, I created a angelic grid around the property as well, and I made little sachets that had herbs and crystals in them, and on one side of each sachet was the sigil, the symbol for Metatron, and then on the other side was each of the four main angels that I personally associate with the cardinal directions. And then I buried them at the corresponding cardinal direction. Now, the way our property works, it's not perfectly lined up, pretty much. You got the four corners of a square-ish, and then at the opposite points are the four directions. So I apologize, y'all, I'm kind of a hot mess. At any rate, we re-up these wards, these grids, at least once a year, every year, typically once a year. We have other things we do around the house. By the back door, there is a protection witch's ladder. There is a very large pentacle. There is a witch's ball. There's a witch's ball by the front door. We have a whole ritual once a year. We go through and cleanse the house with the windowsills and the entryways, all the doors, door jambs, and like it's a whole thing. And in between those things, if there's any time that the energy feels off, we do something about it. What we do is just up to us and how we feel at that time. It's very sort of intuitive. Essentially, we like to keep our home in a specific range, if you will, of energy that feels comfortable for us and that feels good and that we enjoy being in. And we just try to maintain that. Having said all of that, we're not paranoid people. Like, we don't think the world's out to get us. We don't think people are working against us and everybody's, coming for us. But we do understand that there's ick about. And I genuinely feel like the easiest thing that any human being can do without even realizing they're doing it is sending ill intent to another human being just by having, bad thoughts about them or whatever, having bad feelings, focusing on that individual, that kind of thing. And of course, we are also estranged from a few of our extended family members, and we know that there are times when they hyper-focus on us. There's that layer, and then there's just everyday gook and whatever. Typically, we redo our wards in October because that's the month we moved into our home. I think one year it was November before we were like, oh yeah, we need to do that, because it just didn't, we forgot, we got busy, and it just didn't feel off. We have definitely done it before October more than once. Here we are, the very end of July, and we both are acutely aware that we need to be doing this. We can feel it, particularly when the family members are kind of coming at us. We've it's been years. We've figured this out. We can feel, we recognize those feelings, right? And it's just time. It's time to redo the wards. Now, the way that we redo the wards, again, is sort of intuitive, and there's always some element of obviously focused intention, which is the part that I won't really be sharing with you. My husband and I will do that in our own time. And sometimes that's all it is, with some visualization. But most of the time, I take it a step further. I really like, as many of you will know, the witchy goodness. So I like the herbs and the crystals, and I like the physical things as well, even though right now on my path I'm very much outside of that, and I am focused more on just the power of my will and intent in my word and maybe action, rather than any of the glittery correspondences that I love so much. But I can combine both of those things, and I prefer to combine both of those things when it comes to the wards and the protections around the property. Like I said, there's been different ways that I've done this. One year I had a huge gallon of water that I infused with herbs and oils, and physically drew a line completely around the property line with that water. There have been times where I've done the same thing with sand, infused sand with herbs and oils and whatnot, and gone around and physically outlined the entire property. I'm not going to do that this time. I could. One of the things I do is I save any old herbs that I no longer want to either use in product for the shop, or like, this is mainly old blends. I think it might have been 2020, but I think it was 2020, but it might have been 2019 that I redid almost all of the blends for my product. These herbs are killing me. I'm gonna close this. I'm definitely gonna sneeze. My nose, I'm like Rudolph over here. It itches so much. Okay. I changed my blends. I had been using the same blends for most of the products that I've made since 2007. You know, a couple of them may have changed here and there, but I had never really done a huge overhaul. And since I was really new in my path and practice when I started making product, then I decided, I'm a much more seasoned witch now, that I wanted to sit down with my intuition and rejig my recipes that I use in my products. Not that there was anything wrong with what they were before, because I was properly following correspondence, if you will, with everything that I used, but because I have a better understanding of my own personal experiences and practice with different herbs and blends and what have you, I just felt like I wanted to delve into my experience and intuition more deeply when it came to my products. So, as I said, I totally changed them, and I had a bunch of blends pre-made, because I pre-make them, little bags, but I have lots of product, 12 Espit candles and 8 Sabbat candles, and all of the blends for my 100% beeswax candles, and so on and so forth, like in this one of these drawers back here. So in this drawer here, I have all of these little boxes, and I have 3 of these, and then I just have some loose stuff. So like in here are my 100% packs. So I just have a little bit made up so that when I go to make the candles, it's there, it's ready. And I went through and I dumped all of those blends, the old blends, into this container that I showed you, this big container. I actually used some of this last year when I went around and did the wards, but I will be using a little bit of this rather than just wasting the herbs, just throwing them away. I still want to use them for magical purposes. So this is the purpose that they get used for at this point. If ever I'm going to have a ritual fire and I just want to do some quick magic of some kind, I may just grab a handful of it and throw it in there too, because for me, this could be used as offering, and it can be used obviously for setting the protection board for my property, because these are herbs that I had set aside with specific intent and that I had fed energy into for that intent. So I will be using some of that. I'll be using a bit of that. I have these river quartz. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see that, but they're just these little, they're double terminated. They're like an orange color. And it's not going to pick it up very well, and I apologize, but yeah, they're just little double terminated points of quartz, and I just dropped that one along. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do this time, I just kind of was struck by inspiration. I don't want to use this one because it's split open, but I'm actually going to be taking some cinnamon sticks, and I'm going to fill them with the herbs and the crystals, and I'm going to seal the ends with beeswax. And then I'm going to, even this is driving my nose crazy. Then I'm going to anoint them with cedar oil, and I'm going to make 4 of them, and I'm going to bury them. Well, I'm going to drive them into the ground at the 4 corners of the property. And then my husband and I will step in and do the witchy intention magic bit. But again, I thought I would kind of share that with you guys because, well, it's been a while since I did anything witchy on my channel. And I think I'm going to move everything over to my work top, and I'll show you what I'm using and kind of give you explanation of why, and you can see how I do it. All right, so I've gathered all of my goodies here. I've got my 4 cinnamon sticks. Obviously, cinnamon can be used for protection, and that's why I'm using it. It just really called to me. Yeah, I don't know. Again, just kind of hit by inspiration. So again, I'm going to fill the shafts. I'm just going to plug up the end with my finger and put everything in, and then seal the edges. So I have these, which I was trying to show you earlier, these little double terminated. Maybe I can do a better job now. Let's see. But they're just little pieces of river quartz. Because they're double terminated, which means they're shooting energy out in both directions, I am going to try to put them in the center of the sticks. So I'm going to be starting here with this. I may have to grab some more, but once again, this is just the old mix blends. And that's going to be, I think, the base on either side at the edges of each stick. So I am going to grab crochet needle. So I grabbed a big one and a small one, just because I don't know which will do me better for this, but just to make sure that everything is going in the way that I want it to. Several of the things that I'm going to be using here, well, 3 at least, of the things that I'm going to be using are not only great for protection, but they're also good for potentially deflecting any ill will being sent our direction, and even possibly sending it back to where it came from. That for me was important this time around. That's not normally part of my wording, but again, knowing that there are people who are actively, energetically coming for us on some level on a regular basis, I really wanted to include herbs that could help counter that. So next, we're going to have some chilies. They'll heat the whole thing up, get it going, as will another one of my ingredients. But, you know, be protective and assist with blocking the ill will. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing while I'm doing it. I'm not even paying attention to the camera at all. I apologize. Okay, I'm probably a little past the center, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and add my crystal in. Add a little bit more. This is wormwood that I'm working with right now. Again, very protective and good for setting boundaries. I also want to put some ginger in. Again, kind of heat things up and get them going, but it does have that ability to push anything back to whomever may be sending it our way, if they are. If they're not, you know, then it's all good. And lastly, I'm going to put more of that herbal blend in, and then I can seal the ends with wax. I am going to be using this little red beeswax candle. I just prefer beeswax personally.
and try to use it when I can. And I just felt very called to use the red for this. So that's how I'm going to be handling it. I'm going to lay this little piece of paper down to help me hopefully not make a huge mess all over the place. And now I'm just going to seal my little cinnamon spell tubes. I will, anytime that I am doing this sort of thing, frequently blow out the candle, trim the wick, and relight it. It just makes things easier. It goes faster. So I will be doing that quite often. And while I was doing that, while the wax was dripping onto the herb material, I was setting the intention, sealing my intention for the spell into the ingredients, this cylinder. All right, I've got all 4 of my spell sticks sealed. Some of them are getting a little, you can see a little tunnel. I could fill that in if I wanted to. I doubt I will though. I think it's fine. Nothing's gonna come out. That's what I care about. My last step for these little spell sticks today is going to be anointing them with this cedarwood oil. And for me, cedarwood is absolutely my go-to for cleansing, because not only is it great for cleansing, energetic cleansing, it is wonderful for creating boundaries and creating sacred space. So that's what I'm going for. So ultimately, what I am going to have here are these little spell sticks that cleanse, protect, create boundaries, they're for warding, create sacred space, and return to sender if need be. And I just want to put a little side note here with the return to sender bit. I never really do, my intention typically, pretty much always, when I do any kind of return to sender work, is that it's not to harm the person, right? I'm not out to hurt them. I just want them to have to clean up their own mess, really. Be responsible for the energy that you're sending out into the world and hopefully learn something from the experience. That's my intention typically when doing return to sender work. I'm not really out to hurt anyone. So yeah, finished my little spell sticks, as I'm calling them now. Now I was pretty neat with my sealing. One of them has like this one little drip. Now we all know, y'all can't deny it, we witches really love some artfully done wax strips. So if you were at all inspired by this and you wanted to try something similar, you could absolutely go crazy and just have it all over really pretty. Another really cool thing you could do is add some knot magic to this. If you felt inclined to do so, take a colored twine or string that corresponded with what you were doing or that you thought was pretty, and wrap it around and do some knot magic all around it. I think that would be really pretty. Of course, again, if you feel called to try something like this, please don't feel like you have to use the same ingredients that I did. You absolutely don't. You should always work with the things that you know, that you're comfortable with, and that you have on hand. Who has double terminated river quartz laying around? I have it around because I am fortunate enough to have worked in a witch shop and gone to gem and mineral shows years ago. And I have lots of cool little bits laying around from those days. But I could have just as easily used any bits of broken. Like if a crystal breaks, God forbid, I keep all the little crumbs, little broken pieces. I keep all of that. So like I could have easily used broken pieces of quartz. I could have used the little chips that are used on when you make bracelets, the little chip beads, or just beads in general. You could use any number of pieces of stone, any kind of stone, should you want, as long as it's small enough to fit, obviously. And whatever herbs you're called to use. I mean, this would be perfect for prosperity magic if you filled it with prosperity herbs, because the other thing cinnamon does really well, obviously, is prosperity. Not all of you are going to have in-laws who are constantly trying to convert you to another religion and being very aggressive and insulting
and so on and so forth. You know, we each have our own individual needs. So please, you know, tailor it to your own needs. Use what you have, what makes sense to you, and what suits your purpose. So yeah, these are my little warding sticks, spell sticks that I'm going to be burying in the property probably later today. But I just thought, you know, it's been a while since I did something witchy like this, and I thought I would share it with you guys. So hopefully it was enjoyable. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me as always, and until next time, much love and gratitude.